Hey, souls and spirits out there, and welcome back to this sacred space where we explore spirituality, metaphysics, and the deeper meaning behind our human experience. I am so grateful you are here with me. Today, we're talking about the Spring Equinox, which is coming up, and Ostara. It's another sacred turning point around the wheel of the year, and it's one of my favorite seasonal energies to work with. This time of year kind of means renewal and balance and fertility, resurrection and awakening. It's when the earth itself begins to come back to life after the long sleep of winter. So whether you consider yourself a pagan or earth-based spirituality, or you just feel more energized when spring arrives, this episode will help you hopefully understand the deeper meaning behind this powerful seasonal shift. So the spring equinox happens around March 20th through the 22nd each year in the Northern Hemisphere. This year it's on March 20th. Friday, I believe, if my brain is working. An equinox happens when the sun crosses the celestial equator, meaning that day and night are as close as equal length as possible all over the world. Spiritually, this represents perfect balance. Light and dark are equal. Inner and outer worlds are equal. After this point, the days become longer than the night, meaning that the energy shifts towards growth and action and manifestation. If you think about winter, the season of winter, it's a time of rest, reflection, shadow work, and going inward. The cold of the outside kind of keeps us in, and so everything is, inward is what kind of like you have to work with. But spring is when life starts moving again. It starts, you can see it everywhere. The whole world just kind of feels alive when springtime comes. This is why so many people feel more motivated and more inspired this time of year. Your energetic body is responding to the same cycles that the earth follows. Ostara is the pagan holiday that celebrates the spring equinox. It's part of the wheel of the year that we observe, which several traditions kind of use to mark the changing of the seasons. The name Ostara is believed to come from the old Germanic goddess. It's either pronounced Aista or Easter, a goddess of dawn, fertility, and of course, new life. This is where many of the Easter traditions kind of overlapped in the Christian traditions and pagan, including eggs as a symbol of fertility, rabbits as a symbol of abundance, and spring celebrations as a symbol of rebirth. Even a sunrise service at my local church is representing the return of the light, whether that is physical light in the world or Jesus the Christed One coming back to life. He is the light in their tradition. Even the name Easter has its roots in that goddess of Ostara. So long before modern holidays, people understood that this time of year meant survival. The snow has melted, the crops could potentially grow again, animals were having babies, and the sun had returned. So Ostara became a celebration of life winning over death, light returning after darkness. They've survived. They have survived the cold of winter, and they can, begin to live a little easier. Energetically, that is what this time of year will always represent. One of the biggest themes of an equinox is always going to be balance, with the day and night being about equal. We stand at that midpoint between dark and light. Balance points of the wheel always make good days to focus on healing and realignment. But since this equinox kind of tips longer into the light after, it's a perfect time to start new projects and plant those seeds you were thinking about back at Imbolc in February. So this is a nice little reset point, a time to ask yourself, where am I out of balance? Where am I giving too much of myself? Where am I holding back? What part of my life needs new growth in it? Nature shows us that growth happens naturally when the conditions are just right. You don't have to, force transformation. You only have to prepare the soil, your environment, to thrive. Ostara is also often called a time of rebirth. The Aries full moon around this time is also known as the Festival of Resurrection. Of course, many people have heard the story of Jesus or Yeshua However, there are actually many stories throughout ancient history of resurrection or remembering. I am most familiar with the story of the Egyptian god Osiris and how his brother Set cut his body into 14 different pieces and scattered him across the land of Egypt. The goddesses Isis and Nephthys, her sister, along with others, helped find those missing pieces of the great god, and Isis, his wife, through her love, her magic, her alchemy, helped Osiris remember himself. The surging energy of this time of year is very much like that love and that energy of Isis, helping us to put ourselves back together again. Rebirth doesn't always have to mean something big or dramatic is happening. Sometimes rebirth can look like, feeling hopeful again, wanting to try again, letting go of something painful, starting a new idea, or becoming a new kind of version of yourself. The season of winter teaches us to go inward and kind of tuck ourselves away a bit. But spring teaches us to come back out and to live again, to kind of spring forth. And this time, many people kind of start to feel called to new practices, to start learning again, to even reconnect with, groups or people, or to start a new path. I know in my personal life, like it's getting so much warmer now, and I'm like, man, I really want to see, some friends again. I'm really wanting to go out where all winter and basically my whole life, I'm like, I don't really want to leave. I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to go anywhere. And now I'm suddenly starting to think, yeah, I think I kind of want to go out and go do something. And that's I know it's the energy of this time of year because I typically don't have those thoughts very often. There is an ancient Egyptian springtime festival that is known as Shamu, which is still somewhat observed today. It's called a little bit different name, but it's always the Monday after Easter, and it's tied to the agricultural cycle and the renewal of life with old ties to Isis and Osiris and Ra as death and rebirth and the return of the sun. Egyptian spirituality showed us that moving in cycles is life. Life moves in cycles. Death is not the end. Darkness is not permanent. And the sun is always reborn again. In Persian background traditions, the spring equinox is celebrated as Nowruz, if I'm pronouncing that right. The Persian or the Iranian New Year. Again, it represents renewal and rebirth and cleansing and fresh starts. There is always a strong focus on starting the year in balance and in harmony. Across cultures, I feel this message really is the same. When the earth renews, we renew. We as, people of the earth, we renew just like Mother Nature is all around us. In India, around this time, the Hindu festival of Holi is celebrated, and it actually was just celebrated at the beginning of the month. Holi is known as the festival of color. It always looks so cool. It's also celebrated as the victory of light over darkness. It marks the end of winter and the arrival of spring. People throw colored powders at each other and have bonfires and sing and dance and eat and overall celebrate joy. It is a life goal of mine to one day be a part of a Holi festival because it just looks so beautiful and happy, and I hope that there is one day where I can go. You do not have to follow a specific tradition to celebrate the spring equinox. You can honor the energy in very simple ways. You could create a small altar with flowers, eggshells, or even the plastic eggs. You could use those as just symbols. Candles, crystals, even some little candies if you want. Little symbols of bunnies or, the fake grass. You could create a whole Easter basket as an altar if you wanted and set it on your table. That would be so pretty. You could plant seeds either physically in the soil or symbolically by writing or speaking aloud your intentions. You can clean your home or sacred space. Spring cleaning is all about clearing away the old energy. You can meditate on the meaning of balance and to do things in accordance with that. What does balance mean to you? You could go outside at sunrise or sunset and just watch the changing of day and night and kind of notice how you feel when it shifts. What kind of spiritually inside of you shifts when day turns to night. That's actually one of my favorite times of the day. I love the shifting of nighttime and daytime. I love that in the mornings. I love it in the evenings. Before I had my daughter, I used to try to sit outside at that exact moment and just be there for it, because it was just it kind of became an emotional thing, but it was just so beautiful to watch. And even now, with her, if it's nice outside, we go outside and we watch it. If it's not, then we kind of sit in the window, or I attempt to keep the 2-year-old in the window and kind of watch it with me, but I like to just watch as the world awakens. And then in the evenings, I like to watch as it kind of goes to bed at night. I think it's so beautiful. So you could go do that. Just ask yourself what it is that you want to grow this year. What part of yourself is ready to kind of spring forth from the earth and come back to life? This time of year carries a very special spiritual frequency. It says that you've survived the dark, and now it's time to kind of live in that light again. And you may not feel this energy right away. Springtime doesn't just explode into color overnight. It's kind of gradual. You'll start to see the grass becoming green again, and there'll still be those little patches of deadness, but it's becoming alive. I can look out at the trees and I can see teeny tiny little buds, but they're not just springing forth. There's some Easter lilies out now, but there's a lot of them that are still just green little buds. And so it's not just everything all at once. It's just kind of gradual. And that is perfectly fine. It's okay if your energy starts to unfold slowly for this time of year and wanting to kind of do it gently. That's perfectly fine. Trust that cycle. Trust what is true for your spiritual growth. Trust the timing of things. Trust that something inside of you is waking up as the earth around us is waking up. And it's happening for a reason. So thank you for spending this time with me today. If you've enjoyed this, you can follow me all on major platforms. Please share with anyone who loves spirituality, metaphysics, maybe wants some ideas on how to kind of connect in with the seasons and the wheel of the year. As we spring into this energy, I hope you allow yourself to begin again, to grow, to become who you are meant to be. So, blessed Ostara, and I'll see you soon.